الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين والعاقبة للمتقين أما بعد. Inshallah, we'll just use the book today since the file can't be found. We were discussing about the ahkamat, the rulings when it comes to praying in jama'ah, praying in congregation. And if you guys have the paper from last time, everything should be still on it since we can't find it here. But the topic, the new one, was about when should the muqtadi follow the imam and when should he not follow the imam in case the imam makes a mistake when he is leading the prayer. So the first thing is that if the imam stands for the third rakat before the muqtadi completes his tashahhud, in that case, instead of immediately following the imam, the muqtadi should spend the next couple seconds to finish his own tashahhud, finish his own tahiyyat, and then he should follow up and join the imam. Because it is necessary wajib, not just upon the imam, but on the muqtadi as well, to recite at-tahiyyat and tashahhud. And since either imam was too fast or the muqtadi was too slow, both of that, sometimes the imam is too fast and he gets up before muqtadi could finish his at-tahiyyat and tashahhud, or sometimes the muqtadi is just way too slow and he's going really with every proper tajweed to the point that the imam has finished the tashahhud and the muqtadi is only halfway through the tahiyyat. In that case, what they recommend is that muqtadi should speed up his at-tahiyyat and tashahhud and finish it, and then stand up for the third rakat. The same thing happens in the last rakat of a prayer. For example, again, either the imam is too fast or muqtadi is too slow, that the imam has said assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and muqtadi is still saying assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, the tashahhud. In that case, the muqtadi should first finish the tashahhud, and once he has done that, then say assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In that case, muqtadi must not continue go on and recite Allahumma salli ala Muhammad or Rabbi ja'alni muqim as-salah, all of the du'as, because since Imam has said the salam, the only thing muqtadi now has to say is at-tahiyyat and tashahhud, since he was too far behind, and then he just recites those, and then says assalamu alaikum and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, finishes the salah. Because only the tahiyyat and tashahhud are the wajibat. Anything after that is what is considered a sunnah. The third point here is that when إِذَا زَادَ الْإِمَامْ sajda, that when imam makes an extra sajda, it could be any rakat, imam made a mistake and he thought it was the first sajda, but it was actually the second sajda he's already made, and then imam goes down for the third sajda. In that case, muqtadi should not follow him in the sajda. Rather, they should say the words subhanallah to notify the imam that you're making a mistake. You already made your two sajdas, just get back up. So imam should get back up immediately and resume the prayer. Of course, sajda sahv at the end needs to be made because of a mistake that imam made. But the muqtadi themselves should not follow imam in that mistake. They should keep sitting and say subhanallah. Now, Allahu Akbar can also be said to notify the imam, but that is not recommended at all, because Allahu Akbar is the takbir that we make during transition. So imam could get even more confused when you say Allahu Akbar in any case. Subhanallah is the preferred method to notify of this. It is said that one time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as he is leading, a mistake occurred in the prayer. And we discussed this before as well, that the mistake that Prophet ﷺ made was because Allah Azza wa Jal had made him make that mistake. This is why he said, La nasitu bal nusitu. It is not that I forgot, but rather I was made to forget. So that people could understand and learn what they're supposed to do in an event that Imam makes a mistake. And so Prophet ﷺ, whenever mistake happened in his salah, that was a teachable moment for the ummah, so that a practical demonstration example could be given. In such an event, this is how everybody is supposed to react. So some of the companions who were behind him, to notify Prophet ﷺ of the mistake, they started doing clapping, like really, really hard. So Rasulullah ﷺ at the end of the salah, he forbade them that you should not do it, right? For women, it is still the preferred method that when somebody makes a mistake, the woman is only supposed to do like this to identify, to notify that a mistake has been made. She can't say Subhanallah out loud, but men, of course, would just say Subhanallah. Allahu Akbar can be said, but it would just cause confusion. Subhanallah is the preferred method. The next point is when the Imam stands up after the last sitting, mistakenly, the Muqtadi should not follow him in standing up. It is the fourth rakat, you have to sit down, but the Imam stands up for the fifth rakat. The Muqtadi should not follow the Imam and stand up, unless Muqtadi themselves make a mistake and they follow the Imam. But if the Muqtadi knows that Imam is making a mistake, that he has forgotten, they should keep sitting, and again, say Subhanallah out loud, so the Imam could know that I need to sit back down. Now, the Muqtadi, they're saying Subhanallah, 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 and the Imam is just going on, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. He's not listening at all what the Muqtadi are saying. In that case, Imam, he's all alone just standing. Everybody else is sitting, waiting for the Imam to realize his mistake and sit back down. But he finishes his qiraat, he goes into ruku, and then he goes into sajda. So that once Imam goes into sajda, at that point it is allowed for all of the musalli, the muqtadi behind them, just say salam of their own and then leave. But if a muqtadi says salam of his own before the Imam could reach the sajda of that extra rakat that he's doing, their prayer would be nullified. They would have to repeat it. Because since they're following the Imam made a mistake. But the only time they're allowed to disconnect from the salah of the Imam is that if Imam has not realized his mistake to such a point that he actually went into the sajda of that rakat, and once he's done the sajda, now the muqtadi says assalamu alaikum, let the Imam finish whatever he's doing and go on their way. Their salah would be fine. But if, like I said, Muqtadi does that before Imam makes the sajda, then they would have to repeat the prayer. The other thing is that when the Imam lifts his head from ruku or sajda, before the Muqtadi completes their tasbih 3 times, the Muqtadi should follow the Imam and leave the tasbih. Because saying the tasbihat, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim or Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, they are not wajib part of the prayer. Meaning in that case, he has to follow, the following the Imam takes preference and precedence over the Muqtadi finishing their own tasbihat. And this I'm mentioning because sometimes the Muqtadi, they are adamant and they're very stubborn. They say, no, we have to finish our 7 times saying Subhana Rabbiyal A'la or Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, while the Imam has already gotten up. So at that point, they have to abandon their own tasbihat of Subhana Rabbiyal A'la or Subhana Rabbiyal Azim and follow the Imam. Otherwise, there would be some naqs, some defectiveness in their prayer. One thing I would like to add here, because sometimes a few of the brothers have asked me this, and they've said that there should be a longer wait between the 2 sajdas. There should be a longer wait between the 2 sajdas because we have to finish reciting our du'as. And normally du'a that they recite is Allahumma ghfirli warhamni, so to that effect. To clarify this one issue, the 4 Imams of Ahlul Sunnah, out of 4 of them, only according to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala, that according to him, it is wajib, it is necessary that everyone, both the Imam and the Muqtadi, they say at least this short dua between the 2 sajdas, Allahumma ghfirli warhamni, or some other words added as well. According to the other, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, according to them, there is no such thing in between the 2 sajdas. You will just get up, pause for a second or 2, and then go down to the next sajda. That's why most of the masajid, there wouldn't be a long pause between the sajdas. But in some masajid, you might find that Imam is just there's a whole 30-40 second pause between the two sajdas. Why? Because the Imam is just reciting all of these du'as following the madhab of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala. But for the other three, there is nothing. And so mostly you wouldn't find Imam spending much time between the two sajdas because there is nothing to dua to recite in between. So it is makruh for the muqtadi to make salam before the Imam. This was also covered last time as well. When Imam has said Assalamu alaikum and he's coming out of the prayer, the muqtadi, this difference of opinion, I believe I mentioned earlier as well, that according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, when the Imam says salam, the muqtadi follows him in the salam. Imam says salam to the left, muqtadi follows to the left. According to Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, for example, he says it is necessary to wait first. Once Imam finishes both salam, then the muqtadi begins their salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. But according to Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, the muqtadi should keep pace with the Imam. Not go ahead of the Imam, but the Imam says Assalamu alaikum, you say Assalamu alaikum. But if a person is so fast that he said Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah before the salam of the Imam, that would be makruh. In some case, makruh tahrimi as well, if he's doing that habitually. If the muqtadi makes salam before the Imam completes the shahud, the salah will be nullified. The Imam has not even said his own salam, and the muqtadi, he says Assalamu alaikum behind him, he has to run off and he has to go, his salah would be nullified, he has to repeat it, because he has to follow the Imam. I will quickly mention one last thing, inshallah, before we conclude, and this is our next topic, and I will discuss some things because this was discussed, I believe, a couple months ago in one of our khatiras as well, and this is ahkam sutra, the laws of the sutra. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hadith was discussed back then as well, that if a person knew the gravity of the situation, knew that how grave of a thing and how big of a sin that he's committing, if he were to walk in front of a praying person, then he would choose to spend 40 months, 40 years, 40 minutes, whatever, then to cross in front of him. This was the hadith that was discussed. And so, the ahkam sutra, laws sutra. The first point is that when a person is praying in the jama'ah, their own individual sutra does not count. Only the sutra of the Imam counts. And normally, Imam has a wall, the qibla wall in front of him. And so that sutra will suffice for all of the muqtadi. This is why we have seen that if a person is praying behind the Imam, and for example, their wuzu breaks, or some bleeding starts happening, and they have to go, they can just walk through the entire row. Nothing will happen. Why? Because only sutra at that moment that counts is the sutra of the Imam. And nobody is crossing in front of the Imam. They're just crossing in front of the people praying behind the Imam. So that doesn't matter. You can do so. The only time it would be sinful is now the people are praying their individual prayers, right? Or the person came late and Imam said salam and they got up to pray their own prayers. Now you cannot cross in front of this person. Or they're praying sunnahs in the back, you can't cross in front of that person as well. There is a difference of opinion how much distance need to be before a muqtadi or before a person can safely cross the praying person. One opinion, and this is the one that what is absolutely forbidden is for a person to cross between where muqtadi is standing and his sajda position. If he crosses there, it is absolutely haram. And when a masjid is big, like this one, some leeway is given, some ease and convenience is given. So ulama, they say, just to be safe, at the very least, as long as you give him a room of 2 rows, 2 safs, then you can safely cross. Like I said, some ulama say only 1 saf is enough. Some say 3 must be given. So we say we follow the balanced opinion that if a person is praying here, and that's where he does sajda, just give him 1 more row and you can safely cross. There would be no sin in that case. But of course, the people are also, in that case, they are advised that they don't start their prayer in a place where they know people will have to pass them to leave the masjid. There's only one entrance and you're hogging the entrance and clogging the way, then they will be sinful and you will be sinful as well. because of you they committed this sin. So it's very important that we, in a big masjid, that's normally not the problem. But if the masjid is small and a lot of people is crowded, then it becomes very difficult, right? So we have to be very careful about that as well. These are some of the laws of the sutra. That if you're praying behind the imam, your own sutra doesn't count. It's the imam, sutra of the imam. And some of the masajid, they actually have these specially designed sutras that they have placed strategically across the masjid so that people can just pick it up, put it in front of a person, and safely cross. That is also a good initiative as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand this. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وعلى من اتبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد, inshallah, in the continuation of the seerah of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, inshallah, we'll take few points today about the travel of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام to At-Ta'if. And we talked last time about what happened to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, of more harm and torture and physically being hurt for the first time after the death of his uncle Abu Talib, and how this has affected him. And we talked about the incidents that Ibn Kathir and the Imam al-Qurtubi mentioned that most of these happened after the death of the uncle. And subhanallah, it was a very hard time. And we've talked before about the hijrah of the Habasha. So obviously the Muslims are very few and very tormented, and this is the last part of the Ahd al-Makki, of the Meccan time. We're talking about basically the last 3 years. And this is the neck of the bottle before the hijrah al-Madinah, where everything is really getting hurt and getting more severe and more damaging and all that. In the midst of all that, the Prophet ﷺ obviously finding no clear place for making the da'wah at that time in Mecca. Subhanallah, he has tried everything and has tried to talk to people, and then all the squeeze is coming more to the neck after the death of his uncle. and we talked about how he was squeezed and almost lost conscious and all that, subhanallah, and the Sayyidah Fatima coming and talking to the people, and Sayyidina Abu Bakr coming and running and saving the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, أَتَقْتُلُونَ رَجُلًا أَنْ يَقُولَ رَبِّيَ اللَّهِ. So all this happened. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam immediately thinking about, I'm gonna go and make da'wah in someplace else. This is the beginning of where the Prophet ﷺ almost saying, this is it for Mecca. I'm gonna go outside. SubhanAllah, if you think about that, we know the events, but we need to learn, right? At Ta'if, when we go to Mecca and when we make Hajj and Umrah, the best places, and even during, as the Sheikh mentioned, SubhanAllah, the best places to like protect from even Ya'juj wa Ma'juj and all that will be protected at the end of time is Mecca wal Medina. And subhanallah, At-Ta'if could have been our Medina, subhanallah, if they would have accepted what the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam did at that time, subhanallah. Why the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam picked At-Ta'if? Why immediately after Mecca? Why he did not pick Al-Medina or any other place, subhanallah. The Quran in Surah Al-Zukhruf, لولا نزل هذا القرآن على رجل من القريتين عظيم على رجل من القريتين عظيم, as if saying like even this Quran, if it would come to be revealed to one of these leaders from these two cities, that major cities. What are the two major cities? Mecca wa Ta'if, subhanallah. So the Ta'if is almost the second in command. And some of the ulama saying that because of his relation of his akhwal, his uncles, from the part of Halima Sa'diyah. So maybe he knew. In any case, he went to At-Ta'if to make the da'wah and see if they would support him and all that. And subhanallah, we know what happened in Ta'if. Just to keep in mind how much is the distance between At-Ta'if and Mecca. And he went to all the distance walking. He was not riding, subhanallah. And this is close to 110 kilometers. Subhanallah, 110 kilometers. And subhanallah, he went, only him and his Mawla, Zayd ibn Haritha. This is Hibb Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And we know Zayd was one of the leaders in one of the Mawaqi' Mu'tah. Later on, we'll know about that. In any ways, he went to At-Ta'if. He immediately found the three brothers, which are the leaders of the Ta'if. And subhanallah, something just aside, without delving too much, you will always see the leadership or governors or mayors or presidents, whatever, they always bring family, subhanallah. At the same time, Ta'if was the same thing. They are three brothers in charge of the Ta'if, subhanallah, not just acquaintance. One of them, the leader of them, his name is Abd Yalayl. Abd Yalayl is one of the people that, according to the Mufassirun, was meant in this surah. رجل من القريتين عظيم. They say it could be Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira wa Abd Yalayl, the one that met the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The Prophet obviously made the da'wah to the three of them immediately before going into the people of Ta'if. One of them, Abd Yalayl, say, if Allah has sent you to make this da'wah to us, I would have torn the curtains of the Kaaba, subhanallah. Sutrat al-Kaaba, I'm gonna tear it myself, if you are the one. And the second one, obviously hearing that, he would say, Allah did not find anyone but you to send him, subhanallah. So making sarcastic comment. The last one say, I'm not gonna talk to you. If you are a prophet, you are too dangerous for me to talk to you. And if you're a liar, this is even worse. So the three kind of like rejected everything. The Prophet ﷺ told them, if this is the case, let me and the people, let me talk and iktumu anni. Just don't need to say that to the people. And say, they said, no, wallahi, we're gonna tell and we're gonna make your life like bad, subhanallah. The kutub of the seerah, they mentioned that he stayed in Ta'if close to 10 days. 10 days, subhanallah, not just, and this is another thing that sometimes when you talk about Ta'if, we think just back and forth, but he stayed to try to talk to the people. Nobody followed, subhanallah, from the people of Ta'if, and the leaders were talking to all of them to reject and do all this. At the end, they had the people and the kids and all this throw stones at him and told them, get out of our country, basically. That's what we are, another history repeating. Get out of our country. This is our place. Get out of it. SubhanAllah, the Prophet ended up leaving and almost running with Zayd ibn Haritha, trying to protect him from everywhere. They say the Prophet got deeply injured as well during his running, and SubhanAllah, his feet and his body got bleeding from all that. And we'll come later to see his dua. So he mentioned he left At-Ta'if and went to all this, and then he made the dua al-mashhur that we all know. And it is important to link the incidents with the dua of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. اللهم إليك أشكو ضعف قوتي وقلة حيلتي وهواني على الناس إلى من تكلني. All this dua, the very beautiful dua, and subhanAllah, all of you know it, and subhanAllah, one of the best dua to say during al-ham wal-gham wal-hazan, during the time that if you have any sorrow or sadness or anything like that, this is how can you be more sorrow or anything than what happened to the Prophet ﷺ. And when you are making this dua and making this dua and remembering the Prophet ﷺ coming and almost empty-handed, subhanallah, then you will know that your reason for sorrow or all that, subhanallah, is very minor compared to that. Subhanallah, the Prophet ﷺ had this, and Allah, obviously with the wahy and all that, the Prophet made this trip. Another side issue to think about, how many times in our lives we go into like projects or even tests or anything, and then we don't do well, and subhanallah, and we think all kind of like things, and the shaitan start to whisper and kind of like failing, and this is not for you, and this is the subhanallah. And we have the qudwa in our Prophet ﷺ and hadi in the Prophet ﷺ that he did this and spent all this time and walking 110 kilometers on his hands and coming back bleeding with no empty-handed, subhanallah, nothing else. So this is our sunnah in this life, that you try and you may succeed or you may not, subhanallah. But that's the wisdom of Allah, to see how's your patience and what are you going to do. SubhanAllah, that during the time of when he's coming back, Sayyidina Jibreel came to him, the Prophet ﷺ. This is in Sahih al-Bukhari wa Muslim, a very authentic narration from Sahih al-Bukhari wa Muslim. al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiyallahu anha wa ardaha. This is something else. I hate to keep going into side issues, but this is the relationship between man and wife, subhanallah. The wife is always looking to calm the relationship in the house, and mawadda wa rahma, that tranquility and the sakina and all this is the function of the husband and wife, subhanallah. And this hadith sahih, Sayyida Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardaha said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, هل أتى عليك يوم كان أشد من يوم أحد. So she is, subhanallah, processing with the Prophet ﷺ what this recent time we say processing, talking, and letting him vent, letting him talk. So we don't need, as these days, go to therapy or go find a professional or anything. This is the function of the wife and the family and all this. Did you ever had a day in your life that was worse than Uhud, the day of Uhud, that 70 of the Sahaba got killed and Hamza got killed and all this, subhanallah. So she is just asking the Prophet to talk and kind of like, bring your sadness, I'll carry, bring your burden, I'm here for you, subhanallah. So the Prophet answered her, and this is a hadith sahih, لَقَدْ لَقَيْتُ مِنْ قَوْمِكَ مَا لَقَيْتُ. I have seen from your people what I have seen, and the worst that I have seen is يوم العقبة, which is the day of the Ta'if. إِذْ عَرَضْتُ نَفْسِي عَلَى ابْنَ عَبْدِ يَا لَيْلِ. I have shown myself and displayed the da'wah and the Islam to the man, his name is Ibn Abdi Alayl, the one that we talked about. فَلَمْ يُجِبْنِي. He did not respond to anything I say. فَانْطَلَقْتُ وَأَنَا مَهْمُومٌ عَلَى وَجْهِ. So I left and I have all the sorrow and the worries in my heart. فَلَمْ أَسْتَفِقْ إِلَّا وَأَنَا بِقَرْنِ الثَّعَالِبِ. Subhanallah, from his worry and trouble and the hurt and the pain, almost like his mind was not in his head. لم أستفق إلا وأنا في قرن الثعالب. I just got clear-headed except when I'm قرن الثعالب. قرن الثعالب is the place the closest to is the miqat for the people of Najd. So very close to Mecca, the miqat of Najd, قرن الثعالب. So فلم أستفق إلا وأنا في قرن الثعالب. Subhanallah. So فرفعت رأسي. So I looked up. فإذا بسحابة قد أظلتني. I found a cloud above me. فنظرت فإذا فيها جبريل. So I looked and Jibril was there. And he came with ملك الجبال, the angel of the mountains. So the Jibril say, إن الله قد سمع قولك. اللهم إني أشكو إليك ضعف قوتي وقلة حيلتي وهوان. So إن الله قد سمع قولك وقومك وما ردوا عليك. And the people, what they said to you and what they have done. And he has sent me with Malakul Jibal, with the angel of the mountains, to tell him and to command him whatever you want. Subhanallah. This is the green slate for the Prophet to tell Malakul Jibal to do everything. Destroy Al-Ta'if, wipe it out. Subhanallah. Like throw the nuclear bomb. Exactly. It's kind of like remove everything. Subhanallah. The power given to the Prophet ﷺ with Jibril and Malakul Jibal from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of what happened. So this will get to you إِنَّ بَعْدَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرٍ. إِنَّ بَعْدَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرٍ. If you have a worry, a ham, gham, anything that affects you, subhanallah, immediately there is yusr after that. And Allah is keeping you to have the rahmah after that. And we talked about that, subhanallah, nothing that will squeeze you in your life and all that until you come out of it and say, subhanallah, this would not happen to me except through that. And this was the best thing that happened to me. This is mercy from Allah, subhanallah. ولكنكم قوم تستعجلون, but we are hasty. So ملك الجبال سلم علي قال يا محمد ذلك فيما شئت إن شئت أطبق عليهم الأخشبين. If you want, I will crush the two big mountains around them, subhanallah, that crush it, crush the whole thing, subhanallah. Nobody out of their generation will live again, subhanallah. Like قوم لوط and all this والمؤتفكات and all these people, subhanallah. فقال النبي بل أرجو أن يخرج الله من أصلابهم. I hope Allah will get from their descendants من يعبد الله لا يشرك به شيئا. I hope they come from their descendants who will worship Allah لا يشرك به شيئا. And we have seen that. الوليد بن المغيرة وخالد بن الوليد. العاص and Amr ibn al-As, subhanallah. All their kids became like leaders, subhanallah. The children of the mushrikeen became, subhanallah, all the leaders for Islam and make the futuhat and the victors. So asking Allah to come from their offspring, ya'budullah la yushrik bihi shay'an, which is the same thing that we have here, subhanallah, and all the Muslim everywhere. We ask Allah that from their descendants will come somebody will make da'wah ila Allah and ya'budullah, subhanallah. We are not giving up. We don't give up on anybody, subhanallah. This is our hidayah from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Oh, oh, subhanallah, jazakallah khair, inshallah. The Sheikh is saying Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf has sent one to and make the futuhat, subhanallah, and he was originally from Al-Ta'if, subhanallah. So the Muhammad ibn al-Qasim, which is, subhanallah, the dua Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, the Prophet coming back to Mecca after he left, so they used to need something called jiwar, which is like sponsorship. I need somebody to protect me. And subhanallah, the one that name that we need to know about his name is Al-Mut'am ibn Adi. Al-Mut'am ibn Adi. And subhanallah, he was mushrik, but he gives jiwar to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Jiwar to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Like, nobody's going to touch you, you are in my protection. And he let the Prophet come to the Kaaba and make Umrah at that time, subhanallah, for the protection under Al-Mut'am ibn Adi. Now, the Prophet ﷺ never forget that during the time of Badr. We're talking about the 10th year of the Ba'athah. And all the time in Badr, Mut'am at that time was not alive. And subhanAllah, he say, if Al-Mut'am ibn Adi is hayy, if he would have been alive, I would given him those, the prisoner of war, basically of mushrikeen, لَتَرَكْتُهُمْ لَهُ ثُمَّ كَلَّمْنِي فِي هَؤُلَاءِ النَّتْنَى. These people that I will give it to him without fida, subhanallah, out of what he carried from what Mut'am ibn Adi has done to him, subhanallah. This is about our ahd between Muslim and non-Muslim, subhanAllah, and how the Prophet still holding that, even that he was not Muslim. If he came and asked me for all the prisoner of war of Badr, I would give it to him without anything, for having this wala, subhanAllah, to Mut'im. And the Imam al-Dhahabi, rahimahullah, he was saying Al-Mut'im ibn Adi used to love the Muslims, subhanAllah, almost along the same skin like Abu Talib. He was like holding, giving them the food during a shi'ab, and giving them the helping them during the Sahifa. And he was one of the people who instigated to tear down the Sahifa during a shi'ab and all this muqata'a. And he was the one who made jiwar to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And subhanallah, the Prophet teaching us to keep our wala even for the non-Muslims for the times that we are in need, subhanallah. Al-Imam, rahimahullah, Al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, he's saying Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj was a reward that was unexpected to the Prophet ﷺ after this event. So the Prophet ﷺ coming back with the blood and everything, he immediately found Jibreel and Malak al-Jibal. And then Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj happened after that. Isra wal-Mi'raj is a big event in the life of the Prophet ﷺ and all the Muslims. And we all know about it. And SubhanAllah, we're not going to cover much of it this time, just the introduction. Al-Isra was mentioned in Surah Al-Isra. And Al-Mi'raj, just for you to be aware about that, in Surah Al-Najm. And you can go and read, inshallah, سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى إن سورة الإسراء وإن سورة النجم أفتمارونه على ما يرى ولقد رآه نزلة أخرى عند سدرة المنتهى عندها جنة المأوى. So the timing of the Isra wal Mi'raj, there is a lot of also discrepancy about the timing and all that, but the most is this happened after At-Ta'if. Wa Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he's saying there is no specific time to indicate when exactly was the time. So subhanAllah, remember that, because some people say this is a day of the Isra wal Mi'raj and we should do it. SubhanAllah, there is no specific time in any books of Seerah to say what shahr or what day or anything, subhanAllah. النقول في ذلك منقطعة. The one who said that, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. والحافظ في الفتح said the same thing. لقد اختلف في وقتها. And subhanAllah, most of the Al-Hafiz, he said like most closely to it, قبل الهجرة بسنة. So meaning around the 12th year of the Mecca time. And Al-Isra al-Mi'raj, last point inshallah, and I'm going to mention is, some people also have question, is it with the soul only or with his body? Was he awake and or he was like dream of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam? Where most of the ijma' of the ulama, of the scholars, that it happened with the body as well as the soul, and he was fully awake, subhanallah. That's why it is mu'jiza, and this is like very clear. And even in the Quran, just again I mentioned this last three things, subhanallah, subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi, and they say abdihi, his slave, does not really reflect to only the soul. It reflects the flesh and the soul. And the same thing about al-basar, ma zagha al-basaru wa ma tagha. SubhanAllah, they say the basar is also connected to the flesh, to the human form. So that's another. And then we know that he was riding al-buraq, the dabba that he went and have the Isra on it and all this, subhanAllah. And the buraq also is for the body as well. Inshallah, next time we'll talk a little bit about the hadith sahih of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is hadith an Anas ibn Malik when he was بينما أنا في الحطيم. This is a hadith that starts with the Isra al-Mi'raj. Inshallah, we'll cover it inshallah next time. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير.